All right, welcome. Hope you're having a great day. Let me get the LinkedIn crew online as well. And there we go. Welcome everybody. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Golly, can't believe how close we are to. Pardon me. Excuse me. That was boy. That rushed over me. I had no warning of that coming on at all. Welcome everybody. This is what are we? 15 days till Christmas now. It seems like so long ago. I've been at this for now 18 months facilitating these programs. So if you're looking for hints, tips, tactics, and strategy on how to sell more automobiles, 10, 20, and 30 per month, you can certainly find them right here in the group, either on LinkedIn, Facebook, or on YouTube. Scroll down and have a look at those videos. Give me a like and a comment. This is what really keeps us engaged and tells me what you're looking for. And this time of the year, the product presentation is so important because it's colder outside. The nights are longer. Doesn't matter where you live unless you're in the southern hemisphere in Australia and New Zealand. And I don't think I'm talking to many of you there. I don't think we have a whole lot of those folks in either one of any of these groups. But in the northern hemisphere, where we are in North America and Canada, it's not an ideal time for people to be able to come in after work and have a look at the automobile they would like to go with. And if you've had anything like the snow that Central Ontario, Canada received, where they declared a state of emergency, if you did see anything like that or heard that, good gracious, they received, I think it was upwards of 60 centimeters of snow, which is really exciting for us because those of us that live in the northern hemisphere, like I do, Central Ontario, we got about 3/4 of that where I live. It was snow plowing and snow blowing for days at a time. For a couple of days. It wasn't weeks at a time. It wasn't certainly the state of emergency that they experienced there with one of Canada's number one highways that accesses the north and bigger cities that are supported by Toronto and so many others, and obviously going down to the U.S., New York, and all other states in order for them to be able to get the goods that they're looking for. It's not an ideal time for somebody to come in looking for a car. So customers, as much as we as salespeople may not want to walk out on the lot and demonstrate and show product, customers don't want to walk out on the lot and have a look at walking through all the features and the benefits, not to mention that they're standing there shivering away. So the mistake that we make as average ordinary automobile salespeople do on a routine basis is we get I don't want to say lazy or complacent, but we tend to follow the customer's lead on this one. And the customer may say, I don't need to see it. I don't need to drive it. All I want to know is at this point in time, because we're doing our shopping, and we may not make the decision until the spring of next year, but we'd really like to get an idea of how much the vehicle costs. And so now that we have this individual in our sales funnel, and we're taking them through, the steps that lead to the sale, the greeting, and then the interview and determining what they're looking for. And I'm assuming that you've completed all these steps. And here we are right here at this step, the product presentation. What the product presentation does is it creates a bridge. It provides an enormous amount of value, or so it should provide an enormous amount of value. And so what happens this time of the year is taking our lead from the consumer. And I'm not talking about controlling them. So don't misinterpret my intention here, teaching you how that you can facilitate better product presentations to have more first-time sales rate closes by building this value, taking them from where they are right now. Here they are at their, I'm trying to grab different color markers, their old vehicle, right? This is the reason for them making the decision. And your job is to take them to what the new vehicle is going to do. And the reason why I call it a value bridge is that you really are building this bridge over this huge gap. The huge gap represents the things that they are most concerned with. This represents either, the desire, right? They really would like to go with the new product. But that comes along with the fear of missing out on a greater deal down the road and the pain of being able to have to take it over 7, 8, 9 years in order to make it affordable. And this is where we can make the decision to buy. So that is the reason why we call it the value bridge. And that really is our job, that we're constantly thinking about what is it about their old vehicle that we need to solve their problem, because that's what it really boils down to. These 3 buying motivators represent the problem that you solve. That is the secret to selling first visit, second visit, B-backs, bringing people in over and over again. And what we have been doing for the last 100 years in the automobile business is telling them the wonderful features that we have in the vehicle: smart cruise control, blue cruise, and all the rest of it, heated steering wheel, heated seats, air conditioned seats, massage seats, trailer backup assist cameras, 360-degree bird's eye view camera, parallel park, self park, underground tight space parking with great big huge sport utility vehicles like the Cadillac Escalade. And all we're doing is blah, 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 blah. We're puking information. It reminded me doing what really came to mind when coming up with this whole training exercise this time of the year, because the ideal time to do the walk around training is in the spring, when we can be outside the automobile and walk around. And I may try to do that with the video and get somebody moving the camera around as I'm talking about it, give you a real live scenario about how I do a walk around presentation, just like I used to do at Mercedes-Benz as their national sales training manager, at Honda as one of their product presenters, as Chrysler as their nationwide training company that they hired. We were the only one for 8 years. I should say one of 2. The other company was a French company in Canada, because I don't speak French. No one on my team speaks the Quebec conversational style of French, which is different than Parisian French as well, which would be in France. So what we did was facilitate these phenomenal walk-around presentations, which took Ram Truck to product segment leadership. We sold out of M-Class product at Mercedes-Benz when I did my very first product knowledge ride and drive program. And we also helped General Motors create a slow moving product line to the point of inventory shortage in less than 28 days. That was really exciting. But all of that was structured as a result of the product presentations that I used to do when I struggled to sell one vehicle in 1 month. If you are struggling right now to sell 1, let alone 2, let alone 4, let alone get halfway to your target, or even for that matter, a quarter of the way to your target, then I'll link a comment down below to book a call with me. I'll give you some tactics right away to help solve that. But if you want to sell more people first visit, because there are so few visitors actually coming into the showroom right now, these are the tactics that you need to get really good at. And so when you discover what their problem is, which is painfully obvious because it's right here with the old vehicle, it's not like you're doing cold calling. It's not like you're having to knock on doors or be the guy with the sandwich board, out there serving or trying to draw people in to buy pizza or chicken at the fried chicken place. You know exactly what their problem is. They're currently driving a vehicle that they believe has something wrong with it. They don't want to spend any more money on it. They want painless, stress-free driving. This is what they're after by getting rid of their old vehicle. They really like the look of shiny, newer, faster, the latest and greatest technology that has better fuel economy and a monthly payment that is slightly less, the same as, or even more, that is protected by a warranty. That is what the new vehicle is going to accomplish for them. Now, here's what happens when you don't do this correctly. Here's what happens when you elect not to do the value bridge and you decide that, well, the customer doesn't really want the value bridge. All they want is our best price. And so all you serve up is a number bi-weekly that is what? What does it do? What does it solve for the client? If we have no idea what the old monthly payment or the biweekly was, then we have no idea that we're in the realm of possibility on the new vehicle. And this is the reason why conducting a really conscientious interview, a counsel and qualifying session up here at the second step, right below, this is below the greeting. And keep in mind, as we funnel down these exercises and these activities, the challenge and the difficulty raises. So for instance, when we go to the demonstration drive, it gets more difficult to get a customer back out into the cold if you live in the northern 48 states and in Canada, and especially if it is dark at night, where some people don't want to drive on the roadway when it's dark, and certainly if it is snowing, or like last night we were experiencing very heavy dense fog around me where I live. So fog lights are a real thing and very effective. And the really fascinating part with that is we don't normally experience heavy dense fog. Fog lights do an excellent job in your product presentation of illuminating the roadway, not for you as the operator of the vehicle to see better, but for oncoming motorists, for walkers, for cyclists, for wildlife, deer and moose, if you live in Labrador and Newfoundland, and for that matter, the New England states and the eastern townships. This is very prevalent that driving in inclement weather, snow, rain, and fog lights are fantastic because there's a peak over top of the bulb that has a mirror on it. And as the light hits that peak, it's reflected down on the roadway. You can prove this to a client. You can prove this to yourself. Pull up to a roadway at night, turn just the fog lights on. So you'll just have to turn the parking lights on, then to activate the fog lights. You'll see a perfectly defined line on that wall that you're facing, illuminating the ground, illuminating all the way down to the ground in front of the roadway. Now, I can hear a few of you anxious and really eager to chime in. Bill, it illuminates that kind of darkness between the front of the vehicle and where the headlights are hitting the road. And yes, I've heard that before. It also illuminates the corners. Now, there are such a thing as cornering lights, especially in our luxury automobiles. When you turn the signal light on, a white light illuminates the corner, so it makes it that much easier for us to see driving around a corner. But for the most part, most automobiles and trucks don't have cornering lights. With respect to how this effect of the fog lights illuminate between where the front of the vehicle is and where your headlights have hit the road, what is the point? And I get this all the time, standing on the stage, facilitating these presentations to those of you that work with those particular brands. What is the point? You have already seen what you could potentially hit on the roadway without the fog lights, illuminating that sort of dark space, because it isn't completely dark. It's, you know, that it's not totally illuminated, and the fog lights seem to improve upon that, and they do. So if you want to call it a residual benefit of fog lights, go right ahead and do so. The bottom line is fog lights make you more visible to oncoming. If you're selling an automobile to somebody who has had fog lights on their vehicle forever, and the salesperson didn't build this value bridge sharing with us this time of the year where the ground is very wet and cold because snow is sitting on it, and the air is warm and dense because it's full of moisture, then there's going to be that fog effect. And as the fog gets closer to the ground, there's the thermal effect where it is actually clear. Heavy dense fog will touch the ground. That's the reason why the Weather Channel tells us about heavy dense fog and gives us a warning in driving. Fog does exist in the atmosphere all the time. That's where airplanes must de-ice even in the summertime because they're coming through that heavy, wet, dense air. The fog lights will illuminate the roadway, making you more visible to oncoming motorists and wildlife. Anybody who's had fog lights forever on their automobile, never had that presentation, has no value to the fact that the vehicle has fog lights. And so when you don't present these features, you know what you actually do? This was fascinating. And again, as I prefaced earlier, I was facilitating a podcast with Jen Schurters, who is in this very program. She's in the Auto Dealership Academy and one of the six-figure income earners. And Jen came to us as a struggling young woman in a man's world of a small rural dealer. Now, this small rural dealer is doing in the thousands of automobiles because they're selling into larger marketplaces. And she was struggling away, and she called me up and said, I just can't seem to get it. Everybody that walks onto the lot is somebody else's customer. And when I do get a customer, I give them my best price and they ghost me or they take it. I'm not making any money. And I said, Jen, walk me through your product presentation. What everybody came in to see and know about is the new automobile. Now, as we well know, not everybody is the same. We have those buyer behaviors that are so easy to tell. Right? We've got our talkative buyer. We have our A-type buyer, the assertive, the aggressive. We have our listener type buyer. And of course, we've also got the enthusiast. You need to know which one that you have in order for you to be able to build that value bridge, because the enthusiast, as you can just imagine, wants your 60-point feature benefit presentation walking around all 6 positions of the car. So this particular individual wants 10 features and benefits at each of the 6 positions of the automobile. The assertive aggressive type of buyer definitely does not want that. They don't want anything to do with it. So you may be able to get away with 1 or 2 features at each one of the 6 positions. You've got to cover each one of those off. The talkative will talk your ears off, but they're not really listening to your presentation. So at best, you're going to be able to get through maybe 4 features. And the listener, we can misinterpret the listener's politeness for being interested in what we have to say. So if you go ahead and facilitate an enthusiast type of presentation, you could get stuck with that. The listener typically wants a little bit more than the talkative, not quite as much as the enthusiast, and you have to listen with your eyes. You have to really watch and see what is captivating their attention, because our job is to take them from what the old vehicle is not doing to what the new vehicle is doing. And that reminded me of this when we were going through the podcast with Jen, because Jen cited a particular deal because I asked her for it. I said, tell us about a particular deal that was really easy, really fun. You thoroughly enjoyed doing it. She goes, I wouldn't say it was necessarily easy, but she had a young man come in. She knew his parents really, really well and had sold a number of vehicles to them into their business. And the guy comes in and he says, I need a truck. I want a truck. And he was driving a compact car. And at the time, Jen simply said, no problem at all. I've got lots of trucks, but let me ask you this. What are you using the truck for? Right up here at the interview, just out of interest, so that she could figure out what the old vehicle is not doing and then focus on the hot buttons of what the new vehicle will do and itemize all of these. And keep in mind, Jen is a high performer. In 1 year, she went from bottom of the list to the top performer. Now she doesn't even take floor traffic. If you want to be like that, selling 15, 20, 25 vehicles per month, just like Jen, not taking floor traffic, don't take telephone calls because you see them as a waste of time, because the people are so fickle, because they haven't landed, they won't settle down, because you have to go through this entire process. Then give me a call, book a call below. I'll share with you how you can build your portfolio up to that point. This is the thing. You've got to use all those people walking in and calling in on the phone in order to build your portfolio up to the point where, like Jen, you've got these clients that are purchasing 3, 4, 5, 6 vehicles at a time for their business, because she has earned that know, like, trust badge of honor. Now, what Jen did really, really well with this young guy in determining what he needed a truck for was to find out these are the things that he needed. Because in the back of her mind, she was thinking when she said in the podcast, and be sure to go on YouTube and have a look at that podcast with Jen Scherters. It says, yeah, I'm a girl and they wanted me to fail. And that's exactly what we discovered as I'm coaching her through the activities that lead to the sale. They wanted to see if she would sink or swim. She was struggling miserably. She did not feel like she was part of the team. She really felt like she was not getting the support that she desperately needed and wanted. And that's why she invested in herself and purchased the manifesto. Now, you don't need to do that. You can ask your dealer if they would pay for the manifesto. You could split it with them. You could pay a quarter of it. You could pay 3/4 of it. You could spread the manifesto out over several months with your retailer as a pay plan deduction off of your remuneration package. But the bottom line is, you do like Jen, you just don't accept no for an answer. I need this stuff right now because I really want to make this my career. I want to make it my dream job. When you get to that point where your sales are predictable and consistent and your commissions are predictable and consistent, you can buy that dream house. You can put a pool in the backyard. You can buy a boat. You can go to Disney on a fantastic vacation. And just like Jen, in 4 years, she just purchased her first new home. Absolutely magnificent. Single girl, and I'm not going to say lady, I'm going to say girl. She is a lady, but she's a girl compared to my wife or some of the people that we hang around with. I may be old enough to be her uncle, or my wife could be her aunt. I'm not old enough to be her father. But if you get my drift, that she busted her behind in a man's world to figure out how to become the top performer and then purchase a house because of following these activities when people wind up in the funnel as opposed to losing them. Here's what happens when you don't ask the question. So for Jen, when she was asked the question, why do you need a truck? Because in the back of her mind, the company that he worked for, this young man worked for, was his dad's company, and they had 6 trucks. So if he has a dirt bike, ATV, or snowmobile that he has to shuttle around, he had access to a truck. Would he be wise spending $750 bi-weekly on another truck? As it turns out, he did have an off-road, an OHV as we call it, off-road vehicle, ORV, and he wanted to put specific mounts in the back of the pickup box, and therefore he needed the truck to be able to put these specific mounts in and not worry that he would have to borrow a truck out of the fleet and then clean it all out, and that his dad or his boss or whomever he worked for would be upset at the fact that he was drilling into and mounting this specific mount of whatever it was to carry his off-road vehicle in. So right at that moment in time, Jen had the hot button, right? He had a problem. The car that he was currently driving, I think it was a Volkswagen, she said at the time, her truck that she was taking him to could solve that problem, that he could drill mounts in that particular pickup box and drive away. If she hadn't asked that question and she just simply went on to give payments on what a new truck is going to be, and that buyer hadn't seen the value in her presentation, then you know what happens? This is what happens. You become irrelevant. And when you become irrelevant, which means you can't help me, $750 by week, that's insane. That's crazy. That's $1,500 a month. I'm driving a Volkswagen, whatever it was, Jetta, Golf, Passat, whatever the case is. Maybe it was a sport utility. Maybe it could have been something as nice as an Atlas. It didn't solve his problem because Jen didn't know what the problem would be. And consequently, the payment is just a huge number of dollars that has no value. It's like when you go into the cell phone kiosk in the mall and you start having a look at the new iPhone 16 and you ask the sales consultant, how much is the iPhone 16, when maybe you have an iPhone 15 in your pocket, and they say, well, the new Pro Max 16 is $2,000. Wow. Holy smokes, they just keep going up. They keep going up. Yeah, guess what? Technology drives the price up. You get more stuff and it's better. And this is the reason, consequently, why you would want the iPhone 16. But if you can't see the value between the 15 and the 16, you'll rationalize and justify that the 15 that you currently have in your pocket and whatever you're paying for that, if you paid cash for it, that the new 16 doesn't deliver enough value. When you ask those questions, you become relevant. When you don't ask the right questions and you don't present to those questions, you're irrelevant. And here's the thing, you are then replaceable. And this is why customers say, I want to think about it. This is why they don't want to go out on the walk around presentation with you. Or if they do, you haven't found the hot buttons which will build the bridge, which will help them go from no payments to $750 bi-weekly, because it solves a problem. And you can keep making reference back to, this vehicle will be better to solve your problem because this vehicle will be better to solve your problem because of this. This vehicle will be better to solve. And I hope you get the message. Now, here's the other thing that happens. When you don't build this value bridge, the customer that you're talking to says, I want to think about it, and I need to go home and sleep on it, and I need to talk to my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister, my uncle, aunt, my spouse, my grandparents about purchasing this automobile, because they are effectively still comparing buying the new vehicle. What are they comparing it to? The reason why I say every shopper is a buyer is because in this moment in time, they are buying one of two things. They are either purchasing the new one or they're going to continue making the payments on their old one. If they don't have any payments at all on the old one, they do still have a payment, and that's depreciation. Every single day and every single kilometer, every single mile that goes on that vehicle lowers the price, lowers the value of it. That is their payment, not the insurance payment, not the gasoline payment, not the maintenance payment. They're still going to have that on the new one. The biggest payment of all that they never ever get back, they never change, they just simply lose, excuse me, pardon me, is the depreciation that they will absorb. They have to accept the fact that they're paying it, even if they don't have a monthly payment on their vehicle, which we're getting a lot of those buyers in right now, the ones that held off during the inventory shortage to count that would not pay MSRP for a vehicle. So when you don't build this value bridge, you become replaceable because they keep comparing what they can find in the marketplace. And the greatest comparison of all is the deal, right? How much more can they save somewhere else? And so when you don't build the value bridge, I hope you really get the biggest message of all. And the biggest message being is that you lose out on the opportunity right in front of you, staring at you and I right in the face. When you don't refine your presentation, when you don't have the presentation secrets that we teach in the manifesto, where you don't have to do the data dump with any one of these buyer behaviors, but understanding that each buyer behavior is different, and you can tell by that buyer behavior when we cover that in subsequent sessions going forward. So be sure to tune in next Wednesday as well. And now you can build your product presentation such that it solves the customer's problem. It's not about you being an auto show presenter. If you're concerned with trying to remember all the features that an automobile has on it, don't. Solve customers' problems. Now that might be that they want newer, so you need to know about all the technology that is involved in the new. That may be that they want faster, so you need to know about all the performance characteristics, engine horsepower and torque output, as well as transmissions, as well as locking differentials and all-wheel drive systems. And then, of course, if they really love the technology, they're going to want to know about Blue Cruise and Smart Cruise and Tesla's auto driving function as well, because that is different than what they have right now. Why would they want that vehicle to drive itself? I don't know. Maybe they want to eat a hamburger, like my friend who is a Chevrolet dealership just north of me posted a video. This is the greatest thing in the world. If any of you have been to Ontario, specifically Central Ontario, on your way to our cottage country, Muskoka, there is a famous restaurant called Weber's. Look it up online. Have a look. And Weber's has been featured in beer commercials and any other commercial going out there with classic cars, and anybody traveling the Highway 11, that main corridor to cottage country and onwards up to North Bay and Timmins and Kapuskasey and the cold weather testing capital for most of our automobile manufacturers. The Smart Cruise Control makes it really easy to eat a delicious Weber's hamburger, and the special salt that they put on the fries, and the milkshake so thick I think it takes a half an hour to get it to the point where you can suck it through the straw. That may be why they want Smart Cruise Control. Keep in mind, in Canada, that is distracted driving, and you could get in a lot of trouble doing that, eating that hamburger. So I'm not advocating or promoting that, but maybe that does happen throughout the United States, in the southern states. And I know there are self-driving trucks now where the truck driver has to be there sitting in the seat, and there are specific highways that they can use that on, that auto driving function, autopilot, in other words, which has been on airplanes and boats for eons, but now it's on automobiles in the close confines of a road, staying within our lane, which is absolutely amazing and terrific. And I think we'll see it in all automobiles at some point. It'll certainly cut down on traffic and congestion. But if that's the thing that really gets the client going, then you want to focus your presentation on the technology that does support that. The cameras and the Well, the demonstration will really show them what it's all about. This is the value bridge. This is how you make your job exciting for yourself. I'm not suggesting for a second you don't need to know everything about the automobile. That is not true. You need to know as much as you possibly can, and keep diving into your manufacturer's product training, and make sure that your product training at this time of the year is up to speed so that everybody is certified on the floor, because that significantly impacts your dealer's award levels that will be bestowed upon them at the end of the year when the manufacturer tallies how everybody did. Make sure you have completed all your certified training, because it's in your best interest. It's in your benefit. There's no other way for you to solve their problem if you don't have the solution in the back of your mind to the problem that you can solve. However, you don't need to do these magnificent 1 hour, hour and a half, 2 hour presentations it would take me to facilitate what we have done to this brand new automobile that we're introducing to you. My presentation at the manufacturing level is a data dump to you. Your presentation at the consumer level solves a problem. And you do so by finding out what that problem is with the old vehicle, and then taking them across this chasm to what the new vehicle will do for them, which will give them peace of mind motoring, that will alleviate and allay the fear of getting a better deal down the road. You can even say to them on the walk around presentation, can you see yourself owning it? And they go, I don't know. You know what? We're still doing our research at this point in time. You say, how long have you been doing the research? We've been looking at buying this vehicle for 90 days, they say. You say, okay, how about this? How much more time are you going to waste trying to find the best deal when you don't save any more money, because we all pay the same price for the product? At the end of the day, we all know what each individual dealer makes in terms of profit. Our dealers get together in performance group meetings, and they look at what everybody's making. They try to figure out how one dealer is making more per unit than another. And then they tell the person that is making the least, hey, look, you can pull your socks up and come up to our level, because a high tide raises all ships. We know this. The happiest customer is the one that pays the most. So we know that. How long, right here at fear of paying too much, how much more time are you going to spend driving around to save nothing? You plant that seed in their head, you've solved their problem with the old vehicle that doesn't cost them anything to what the new one is going to be at $750 bi-weekly, by settling their fears. There isn't a better deal down the road. The best deal is right now. That could hinge on residual rates on leasing. That could hinge on interest rates that go up because the programs end. That could hinge on supply and demand. That could hinge on the very fact that they're looking at a 24 and they're saving a lot of money going before they go to a 2025. You can allay that fear. And of course, the desire is the pride of ownership, right? You know, an automobile is the first thing that you get into when driving to work. And it sets your day up. If it's a pile of junk, if it's a rattle trap, if it is unreliable, if every time they go in to start it, it's a fingers crossed, nail biting moment, the problem you can solve is the pride of ownership. Taking friends, family, and relatives out during the Christmas holidays for lunch or dinner, or driving to relatives long distances away if you didn't already do that on American Thanksgiving and the Canadian Thanksgiving way back in October. This is the pride of ownership. This is how you sell 10, 20, 30 vehicles per month with predictable consistency. If you want to know more about it, I'll put a link below to book a discovery call with me. There's nothing to buy. I'll give you the tactics. You can ask me any question about the manifesto that you like. How much is it? How long does it take to go through it? What support do I get? What's the warranty? We warranty it. We don't guarantee it. We warranty it, which is way better than a guarantee. Share all those details with you so that you can sell 10, 20, and 30 vehicles per month. Join me next week as we dive into the best one of the entire bunch, because I'm sure you're all super anxious to know about how you can fill your pipeline this time of the year as we wrap up and roll and close off the year of Q4, and then we open up Q1 next year, which is typically just as slow as it is right now, regardless of governments taking over, regardless of what the economy is doing, regardless of what the world thinks of our particular dollar in our country and consumer confidence. you still need to make your monthly payments. You still want to make that big income. You still want that swanky vacation, that big house, a pool, a big boat, and filling your pipeline is the simplest and easiest way to do it. With only 20 leads, you can sell 10 automobiles. And at $500, $700 per commission, that's a pretty great income that only gets better as the year goes on. So book a call with me. Next week, we'll talk about filling that pipeline. Have a wonderful day and a terrific weekend. Bye-bye for now.